Hello, it's your friend Phil, project management trainer and coach. The question that I often get is, what do I need to do when it is 1, 2, or 3 days to my PMP exam? This is actually a very condensed session. I'm going to squeeze 20 hours of learning into 20 minutes. So let's first of all examine Agile deep thinking, because I want you to get the low hanging fruit for your exam. When I say think Agile, I mean espouse the manifesto details inside out. You need to be thinking about people first, communicating as often as possible. Remember, face-to-face is preferred. You also need to have a positive mental attitude. The questions will pose challenges in that you could choose a negative mindset, one of punishment power, or you could choose one of mentoring and coaching. If a team member is not performing up to par, what are you going to do? Punish them? Or would you train and coach them? Would you help them to understand better ways of doing things? Be nice to people. Punishment is rarely a good course of action. Are there sometimes that people need to be given a slap on the wrist for poor choices and bad behavior in an organization? Yes, but that is rarely PMI's focus on these questions. Cross-functional teams are important. It's important to see within each team, people need to jump in to help each other. That is the entire idea when we talk about cross-functional teams. T-shaped scales, broken comb, paint drip. Those are words you should know. Work with the customer relentlessly. Have a collaborative mindset as opposed to one of negotiation. Understand that change is good. Kaizen, change for the better. When your customer needs a change, give them the change to the extent possible. Empower the team. In order to think agile, you need to have a collaborative mindset when it comes to working with teams to manage conflict. When it comes to leading a team, think servant leadership. Think situational leadership. Not a one-size-fits-all for everyone, but everyone on that team is a unique individual. If you are working with them, work with them with the Hersey Blanchard model at the back of your mind. As a leader in an organization, you should support the team's performance. Supporting their performance means you are helping them grow. You are helping them understand their performance and giving them feedback in a friendly, non-threatening manner. The exam will test you on Agile think across people, process, and business. The understanding of building a team, equipping the team, appraising their skills is important. When it comes to the team being stuck, you should remember your definite chief aim as a scrum master or servant leader is to continually reassess those impediments, obstacles, and blockers. Get them out of the way, prioritize them, big rocks first, smaller pebbles, sand next, but you want to attack those pesky impediments first. Negotiate all agreements, be it an agreement about velocity, schedule, cost even, what have you. But in the back of your mind, you need to read page 77 to understand an overarching master services agreement with smaller little agreements is helpful. Read that in the Agile Practice Guide. Have a mindset of collaboration, seeking to understand first before being understood. And that means using a method such as the dig sieve approach to break down the problem. define the problem, identify the root cause, generate alternatives, choose the best alternative, implement that alternative, and verify that it actually worked. As a servant leader, you must engage and support virtual teams. You should investigate the best way of engaging your team. Terms such as osmotic communication, information radiators, fishbowl window should come to mind. Understanding concepts for not only collaborating but learning and mentoring are important. The concept of pair programming, understanding the team charter, page 49 and 50 in your Agile practice guide will go a long way to help you. Understanding the importance of mentoring, promoting team performance by using emotional intelligence. These will help you immensely on your exam. When it comes to the process piece from an Agile perspective, you need to also approach it from a softer side, even though it's Agile. Let me explain what I mean. When you think about executing a project from an Agile perspective, in the back of your mind should be people, value, business value. In order to execute this project with a bunch of processes, I should be doing it to deliver value to my client. And I should be thinking, how can I deliver value in increments? Not in one big clump, but in increments. When it comes to communications, your mindset, your thought process should be, how can I get the communication as expediently as possible to those who need it? My team members, osmotic communication, information radiators, co-located team. When it comes to risk management in the world of Agile, this is something that is built into the process, multiple iterations. When it comes to engaging stakeholders, you must think first, the primary reason I'm doing this is success for my customer. So when you engage stakeholders, you're doing it with a purpose to succeed with your customer. Your strategy for engagement is all about what works best for the customer. When it comes to planning and managing budget and resources, I would like you to pay close attention to page 92 and page 92 in the Agile Practice Guide. It reads, projects with high degrees of uncertainty may not benefit from detailed cost calculations due to frequent changes. Instead, lightweight estimation methods can be used to generate a fast, high-level forecast. So, in your mind, fast, high-level forecasts are preferred from an Agile perspective because the scope hasn't been fully defined. Keep that in the back of your mind when answering Agile-related questions that may pertain to cost. In the same token, as it pertains to schedule, you should remember that in the world of Agile, adaptive approaches use short cycles. Your sprint is not going for years on end, at best 4 weeks. So, these short cycles provide rapid feedback on the approaches and suitability of deliverables and generally manifest as iterative scheduling and on-demand, pull-based scheduling. Remember the importance of looking at pull-based systems instead of pushing work on people. That is also something to think about. Think about flow-based Agile, Kanban, iteration-based Agile, the world of Scrum, and understand how scheduling could be done in iterations and in a just-in-time approach when it comes to flow-based. When it comes to quality Quality is built into the processes of Agile. Within a Scrum framework, the constant iterations enable check-in periodically, not just in sprint reviews, but you need to remember that sprint retrospectives are also a perfect way of self-inspection within the team that is also part of quality. So it's important to remember quality in Agile is built in. During retrospectives, the team regularly checks on the effectiveness of the quality process. They look at the root cause of issues, then suggest trials of new approaches to improve quality. When it comes to scope management from an Agile perspective, you should remember your product backlog can change according to EEF's enterprise environmental factors, factors in the enterprise or factors that are in the marketplace could wildly affect your product backlog. Sometimes might negate so many of those stories in your backlog. When it comes to integration from an Agile perspective, you should remember that the team is front and center, not the project manager, because there is no project manager theoretically in the world of Scrum. So in the world of Scrum, using it as an example, integration is done by the team. Managing project changes is also important, but remember, if you want to change anything within the sprint, it has to go through the product owner, and changes during the sprint are forbidden. Generally, could they happen? They could, but they must go through the product owner. Remember that changes to any part of the product backlog must be approved, first of all, by the product owner, if it is going to be done. With that said, anyone can add to the product backlog. But once the product backlog has been prioritized, once you get an idea of what to be done in the next sprint, those ideas should be held in place as much as possible, and any changes must go through the product owner. It is a very powerful role. It is a role that should be respected. And if there's no respect for the product owner, there could be problems. You could get questions that really test your understanding of these roles. So I want to encourage you, if you have not already done so, do read page 40, page 41 in your Agile practice guide. Page 40 starts off with Agile roles. In Agile, 3 common roles are used. It reads cross-functional team members, product owner, and team facilitator. Be sure to understand these 3. The product owner works with stakeholders, customers, and the teams to define the product direction. Typically, product owners have a business background and bring subject matter expertise of a deep nature to the decisions. Sometimes the product owner requests help from people with deep domain expertise, such as architects, or deep customer expertise, such as product managers. In Agile, product owners create the backlog for and with the team, and the backlog helps the team see how to deliver the highest value without creating waste. And for that reason, I often refer to the product owner as a chief value officer. A critical success factor for Agile teams is strong product ownership. Without attention to the highest value for the customer, the Agile team may create features that are not appreciated or otherwise insufficiently valuable, therefore wasting effort. So in your big run-up to your exam, you should recognize these roles talked about on page 40 and 41 of the Agile practice guide. When it comes to planning and managing procurement, just remember high-level MSA, flexible arrangements, that's the way to go. Page 77 talks about a lot of these contracts. Remember, in managing project artifacts, we have 3 artifacts in the world of Scrum: product backlog, sprint backlog, and PSI. But also remember that in the wider world of Agile, we might refer to other things as artifacts. storyboards, burn-up charts, burn-down charts, CFDs, and so on. It is important again to assess how to execute a project, which approach to use, methodology, methods, practices. Should we go with an iterative, incremental, agile, or predictive approach? Should we go with a hybridized approach? What does that look like on page 27 and 28 in the Agile Practice Guide? Understand those models for hybridization. Understand that governance is not a bad word. It is the framework in which authority is exercised. Understand the importance of managing issues from a predictive standpoint. But when we talk about issues, a lot of times we're really using the word issue to replace impediment. As a good project manager, be proactive before a risk becomes an issue. You should have already thought about it. Make sure that you're transferring knowledge so the project can continue. In the world of Agile, this is done daily and continuously. Daily scrums, sprint reviews, backlog refinement, sprint retrospective, sprint planning. These are all vehicles for sharing knowledge and ensuring project continuity. When you are closing out a project or phase, in the world of predictive, it is different. In the world of Agile, we are ready to close at any time. In the sprint, remember, what you are doing is iterative. You could be in a sprint and receive word it is the final sprint. You should be able to close out the sprint expediently without having to go 5 sprints back to look for lessons learned, because those lessons learned are not documented from the world of Scrum. In the world of Scrum, our retrospective is where we hold those conversations sacred. They are not shared outside of the team. They are not documented outside of the team. So that knowledge is with the team. And that's why, as much as possible, we do not like changing team members. We want to keep the team as intact as possible so that those great behaviors that have been learned, overcoming the 5 stages of team development and getting to the performing stage, is kept intact. When we talk about Agile from a business perspective, you want to think about compliance. Compliance should also be thought about even in Agile. And these are things that could make their way into the product backlog. When we talk about benefits and value from the world of Agile in business, value trumps everything else. The product owner arranges those backlog items based on 2 parameters, largely value and risk. High risk, high value, do. Low risk, high value, do next. Low value, low risk, do. High risk, low value, avoid. Make sense to not do. When it comes to evaluating the business environment from an Agile perspective, this is something the product owner and the team should be involved in doing, but more so the product owner. The product owner should continually review the business environment for impacts on the project, the product backlog to be precise. When it comes to understanding how organizational change impacts the project and vice versa, all team members should have an awareness of this. But most importantly, the servant leader should be well aware of how to support organizational change. And that is how you need to be thinking for your exam from an Agile perspective.